Last week we were real echoey. I had this on a different. So well, that's because I had this on this, circular one. Now it's just this way. So I tested it this
When I
morning.
listened to it on Facebook, it didn't sound that echoey.
Because Facebook goes to there. Facebook always sounds better.
So where does it sound echoey then?
The radio.
Oh, the radio.
Yeah. And we can't get that unless we get like a radio room. I mean, I've had suggestions, what they told me is get some stuff and, build up around us
Right.
and close us,
Right.
and who would be able to see us with that, so, and then I'd have to move that and all that stuff. I mean, if I did that, I'd just go into that room, but even when we went to that room, it's still a little echoey, so, I don't know. I think it is what it is, so, let me know when you're ready and I'll start the recording.
I am ready.
Are you on? Okay. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
And you're listening to?
Looking for the evidence.
I am Gordon Walsh.
And I'm Ron Allenberger.
We definitely have got that down.
It's about the only piece we have.
About the only piece that we've got down. So, and last week we want to apologize. It started early, so I'm going to we go through Live Control, which is a company out of California, and they film it for us.
Right.
Which is nice for me. It makes it kind of hands off for me.
Right.
So I'll just make a note to them saying, hey, don't start it so far in advance because then it's just sitting there watching nothing on Facebook for 30 minutes. So,
Right.
anyways, we'll try that. Today's a little bit better. We didn't get connected until just recently. So, hey, today we're going to talk about the fig tree.
Yeah.
And you can find this in Mark chapter 11. I want to read right here. There's a couple of things here, and then I want to go down. What I'll do is I'll read 12 through 14, and why don't you read 20 through 25, I think it is, right? Somewhere in that, 26?
Let me see if I can pull it up here.
All right. So I want to read this first, and then we'll talk about it.
Are you reading it from Matthew?
I'm reading it from Mark.
Oh, Mark.
Right. So, it's in Matthew as well. I just pulled it up out of Mark. So, okay, so this is Mark chapter 11, verse 12 through 14. On the following day, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry. This is Jesus. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And he said to it, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And his disciples heard it. And we got to jump down to verse 20.
But it's important to just mention here that this happens and then Jesus cleanses the temple. So there's a story of Jesus cleansing the temple because I think that's part of the meaning behind the fig tree.
Okay.
So Jesus cleanses the temple.
All right.
And then
this is where he goes. This is in verse 15. This is right after that. He goes
Right.
into verse 15, and then he goes in the temple, and they're selling goods, and what he calls money changers. Basically, it'd be as if you're inside a church, a holy place, and you're doing something that has nothing to do with the glory of God, but in order to make me money and other people. Similar to that. And we can talk about what that might look like, what you think, so.
yeah, okay, all right. So that happens, and then it picks up as they pass by in the morning. They saw the fig tree withered away to its roots.
Right.
And Peter remembered and said to him, Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered. And Jesus answered them, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received, and it will be yours. And whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive you in your trespasses.
Okay, so this is when my thing fell off. So they asked Jesus about the lesson of the withered fig tree,
Right.
right? So this is one of the main questions here that I got was he doesn't answer it. They don't feel that Jesus answered the question. You know, up here, he sees this tree, the fig tree. It'd be like us seeing an apple tree, and we know what they look like when they're in season, right? And you walk up to the apple tree, and there's no apples on it, but it looks like it's supposed to have apples, right?
Right.
So this is the first question that they had was, and then so Jesus sees this tree. It looks as if it should have fruit. He walks up to the fruit, and it doesn't have any fruit. Then it says, for it was not the season for figs.
Right.
So why would Jesus get mad if he sees it's leaves on it, but it has no fruit, but he knows it's not the time for fruit? So that's the first question that we had.
Right.
And then the next question, which we'll go to in a minute, I suppose, is he never answers the question.
Right.
So what? I guess why would Jesus curse the tree if it doesn't have fruit when it's not supposed to have fruit?
Right.
That's the question.
So,
And it's a hard question to answer.
I don't think it is. Actually.
You don't think so? Okay, let's see. Let's see.
So I don't think it is. I think the problem is we come to this story with some assumptions here, and I think it helps to read Matthew's account of it because the questions the disciples ask is, how did the fig tree wither all at once?
Okay.
So this is interesting, right? So, and that makes more sense of Jesus' answer then, right? Well, how did this fig tree wither all at once? So they're approaching this fig tree, and it says that it hasn't had fruit yet. So what does that suggest? It's probably suggesting that it's still in spring, things are budding, things are blooming, things are growing.
No, but
there's not fruit yet.
Yeah, but you can.
It's too early for fruit. It'd be
Wait a minute, but okay, that's fine. I mean, that part logically you could say, oh, it's too early for fruit.
It's just making a mention of the season.
I know that, but Jesus comes up to the tree. Okay, Jesus sees the tree.
The reason
from a
why I
distance.
mention this is a lot of people make a big deal about it not having fruit because then they're going to turn this into some kind of symbolism about Israel or sometimes the church, and it misses the whole thing together.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
Jesus
we're not
curses this tree
right.
in the height of the green season when everything should be growing, everything should be blooming.
But it says it's not the season for figs.
It's not the season for figs. That's right.
And Jesus lives in this area. It'd be like me going up to an apple tree, right?
It's all that is just a notation of the time of the year. It has nothing to do with whether it has fruit or not.
Okay, that's fine, but you're missing the mark here.
I'm not missing.
You are missing the mark.
No.
Okay, yes, you are.
No.
Because if I go up to an apple tree like right now,
where does it say that Jesus is expecting to find fruit?
He does. It says, and seeing in the distance a fig tree and leaf, right?
Right.
He went to see if he could find any fruit on it, anything on it.
Right.
When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves. For
Right.
it was not the season. So he's seen it and said, hey, there should be, there might be some fruit on there. I'm going to go check it out. So but it wasn't the season. It'd be like me going to an apple tree right now.
Right.
Expecting it to have edible apples on it.
Well,
Okay.
but that's my point. Is I don't think that the implication there is he was expecting to find edible apples. I think he was expecting to see the seed of fruit.
But it says he was hungry. I don't know. I don't really agree with you right now, Ron. And normally
Sorry.
I do, but I
No,
don't.
you don't.
Yeah,
Normally you don't.
Well, hey, it says right. They just left Bethany, and Jesus was hungry. Right? Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf. Right? So
Right.
once it has the leaf, it starts to sprout its fruit, and it's like he
Well,
went to see if it could have anything on it.
You can go out to apple trees right now and see little apples on them.
Right, but they're not edible.
Right.
But I know that.
It's just telling us the time of season.
But I don't know, because he cursed the tree.
Yeah.
So there has to be more to it. Why would he curse the tree if it wasn't supposed to have any fruit on it? Why would he get mad at the tree and curse it so it dies, so it doesn't have any fruit on it?
Because I think his answer to his disciples is the real reason.
So you think that Jesus
Why wouldn't
killed
it-
the
why-
tree and cursed the tree, saying, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again"? You think that
Well, look at his answer, and look at the disciples' question.
okay? So
Look, the tree that you cursed withered.
Right.
What are they astonished at? Did they ask, why did you curse this tree? Because there's no fruit on it, Jesus. What a kind of mean thing. No, what they're astonished at is just within a matter of a day or hours or whatever, it's a short period of time that they come back to this tree and this thing is completely withered. That's what they're amazed at.
okay, so
Right.
So Jesus knew ahead of time, which I actually would believe. Okay, but Jesus knew ahead of time that this was going to be a lesson about faith.
Right.
Okay, and that he came up to this tree, saw it in the distance. When a fig tree has leaves to a certain, when it has fruit on it.
Right.
Okay, and in this particular case, it didn't have fruit on it because it wasn't ready. It'd be like me going to the apple tree right now.
Right.
Okay, so and Jesus already knew this,
Right.
right? So now the one thing I guess this would be a question I'd have, right? Because a lot of times, and I'm not getting off topic, I'm not going down a rabbit trail.
Sure.
Even though we killed the rabbit house out there.
Yeah, I know. I'm sad about that.
I know it. We've got to remember the Bible's written from a spectator's point of view.
Right.
They're when they're writing this, Mark writes this and says, "Hey, we just left Bethany, right? And there was this fig tree. Jesus saw it, and he was hungry because he maybe mentioned at some point that he was hungry.
Right.
So he made the assumption that he was hungry, maybe. You know what I mean? So he wrote down Jesus was hungry, which is a fact. But Jesus, and his wisdom, knowing that what was going to transpire when he does this is more of a lesson rather than him really seeking food.
Right.
Okay, so then he goes up, and the next day they're astonished. They didn't ask, like you said.
Right.
They didn't ask Jesus, saying, "Hey, you cursed this fig tree, but yet it wasn't in season. Why are you getting mad at the fig tree when it wasn't supposed to have fruit anyways?" Right?
Right.
Okay. So then you go on, and then they didn't ask that. They were amazed at it being withered.
Right.
Okay, so then go on. Just getting clarity here.
Sure.
So people understand.
Right.
Because this is an area that I don't think people get.
Really? Well, I think so. I think there's a lot of confusion.
I don't. I mean, you might get it. You've been to Bible college, right?
Well, I don't know that necessarily has a difference.
Well, no, there is a difference because when you go to Bible college, they at least at a bare minimum, the one thing I learned about is how to read and study to have a better understanding of the scriptures. Mm-hmm. Most people when they read it, especially in this particular case, there's a break in it. It's like, if you have any Bibles, these weren't never written like that. It's like Jesus curses the tree, and then he goes to the temple and he gets mad at everybody and
Right.
tears everything up. And then the next morning they see the fig tree again as they left.
Right.
It's like, hey, that tree's withered, right?
Yeah.
So
here, I think that's the more important question here. What is the connection of the fig tree to Jesus cleansing the temple?
okay, we'll cover that because we'll go back
because
to this one
I think
the
that-
next part's relatively simple.
because I think that is the important part of this lesson that's most often missed.
Okay, so we've got this because if you would have took out Jesus cleansing the temple, and his disciples heard it, and they came to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold and those who bought in the temple, and
Right.
overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold the pigeons.
Right.
And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. And he was teaching them and saying to them, "Is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations, but you have made it a den of robbers?"
Right.
And the chief priest and the scribes heard and seeking the way to destroy him. for they feared him because all the crowd were astonished at his teaching. So Jesus comes in and see what they're doing in the temple is not, we can say it's not of God, but it wasn't the purpose for God, right?
Correct.
And I do want to talk a little bit about some of the things here after you tie these two together, okay?
Sure.
Because there's some things that I think I see in churches today in certain movements. So go ahead.
Well, I think that now keep in mind this is also the Passion Week of Jesus, right?
Right.
This is the week in which he's, heading to the judgment and crucifixion and resurrection, and so this is the last time that Jesus is going to visit the temple before that event, and so I think this is also. The disciples aren't going to recognize this now, but they're also remember that these Gospels are written after these events, and they're looking back and they're connecting the dots. And so the fact that this took place after Jesus cleansed the temple, and the connection, it's interesting that both Mark and Matthew connect these two events together. So it's not like one gospel has it in a different place, and sometimes we see that in the gospel stories where the gospel writers might have the order of the stories just a little bit differently. But here, in this event in Jesus' ministry, it's directly tied to the cleansing of the temple, and it's during his Passion Week. And so the question you have to ask is, well, what is the lesson, or what is the story, or what is the point Jesus saying about what is going on in the temple? Because keep in mind that the fig tree had a huge symbolism in the nation of Israel.
Okay. But you said we can't talk about that. You put that out right at the very beginning. You guys heard it, audience, you heard it. Everybody heard it. You said at the beginning we can't do that. You weren't.
Oh, no, I didn't say that we can't. I said many people do, but they take it off in weird directions.
Oh, okay. So what's your weird direction?
I don't have a weird direction. I've got the right direction.
Okay, what's the right direction?
It's not all weird. It's just mostly weird.
Okay, so go on.
So anyway,
Now explain it so people understand it.
So keep in mind that Jesus also during this time had predicted the destruction of the temple.
Right.
And so the cursing of the fig tree, the cleansing of the temple, the prediction of the destruction of the temple, and remember during the cleansing of the temple, the authorities in the temple, the Pharisees and Sadducees, they challenged Jesus, asking him, "By what authority do you do this?"
Right.
And can you imagine? Put yourself in the disciples' shoes, right? They're following this,
Rabbi.
This revolutionary rabbi, who just went up and messed up the religious establishment that they had all been risen to respect, right? They had all. This was like the holy of holy place. This was like the place where God dwells, and Jesus had just come in here and destroyed the place, in essence, and then the religious leaders who they had been taught since their youth to respect and admire and look up to, they come out and they challenge Jesus' authority. What right do you have to come out here and do this, right?
Okay.
So I can only imagine that after this event, there's a lot of questions going on in the disciples' mind. And then as they're leaving Jerusalem and they pass by this fig tree, here's this fig tree that just before this event Jesus had cursed.
Right, and it's withered.
And and the idea of the tree being withered there is more than it was just looking wilted.
Right.
The idea is it's dead. So this once vibrant green fig tree, and if you've seen a fig tree, they got these big green leaves. They're just full of foliage. Probably one of the most beautiful green plants you'll see or trees that you'll see. This thing is now just this brown carcass. All the leaves are dead on the ground, dried up, and it says that it's dried to its what? Roots.
Right. So now you're tying all these in together, and I think that is something that people kind of see. Okay, they look at the temple as something that is not godly. It's not. It's showing itself to be fruitful, but it's really not. Right.
Right.
That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and notice the words that Jesus uses there.
Okay.
May no fruit ever come from you again.
Right. So no fruit from these guys in the temple, may no fruit ever come from you again.
Yeah.
Which actually would, well, I guess would it be the individuals or that temple, knowing that particular temple would be destroyed in the future, and and then Israel will be no more for an extended period of time? Because right now, Israel produces fruit, I mean,
Not the kind of fruit that God's looking for.
not the kind of fruit God's looking. Well,
Right.
that's the question. But see,
And that's exactly Jesus' point here, right?
Right. So you're-
I'm coming here looking for fruit, and instead, what I see is a den of thieves and robbers.
right, and I mean, I see that in what I mentioned before. I see that today in churches, whether you have a big time person preaching, right, coming in
Right.
and they're speaking. It's an event,
Right.
And truly that's what it is. It's a show, and it's an event,
Right.
and and it's all about the money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember seeing one person talking about, it's not about the money, and then starts talking up and giving stories about receiving money and
Right.
and getting everybody pumped up to about,
Right.
you can tell that it's building
about the
up.
money.
Yeah, something's going to go on, and then about you can see the excitement building, and then they say, all right, we're going to be going around, drop your money. One time I went to an event. I'm going to call these events rather than services.
Right.
And a person invited me. I had no idea what was going on, and anyways, they were getting it all pumped up, and everybody, come throw your money on the stage, and people coming up just throwing money all. I mean, the
Right.
stage was full of money. I mean, it worked.
Right.
But I see that today where it's not about Christ. It's not about God. It's not about the Holy Spirit. It's not about the Bible. That's just something that entices people to do what the purpose of the service is, which is to glorify the person speaking, to
Right.
glorify and make me feel important, and maybe to fill my coffers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And not always. I'm not saying that everybody that fills the coffers is wrong, and I'm not saying everybody, but my experience has been more about them than about him. When I've seen these things.
Right,
And-
about the Lord.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also, echo that, there are some beautiful, legitimate ministries that take place that are truly ministries and not events. But, yeah, I think it's a sad state of affairs. The interesting thing is I've been reading a lot of church history, and right now I'm reading about the church fathers, and I'm back to St. Jerome and St. Basil and
I don't want to go too far off because I got to finish this down here.
But the interesting thing is this all the way from the Old Testament to the times of Jesus when he's cleansing the temple into not a couple hundred years after the church is birthed from the day of Pentecost. This has been an ongoing problem. To today.
Right.
This has been an ongoing problem.
Well, I know why it's a problem. It's because we get involved.
We get in the
know.
way.
But here's the question that kind of comes about as well, and it talks about here, okay, and the fig tree is withered, right? That's the question, and if you tie it into what happened right after that, it still doesn't really answer the question, right? You can if you tie in the fig tree, the cursing of the fig tree and the cleansing of the temple, I can see how those tie in together, right?
Right.
And they're astonished at the fig tree being withered,
Right.
right? Because they asked Jesus, hey, this tree's withered, man.
Which answers his questions about where he got his authority. Right?
Okay, so that's what it is. It's not that if I want this mountain to move, that the mountain will move.
Right.
Other than the guy that was standing at the base of Mount St. Helens in 1980,
Right,
just
yeah.
become saved. This is my made-up story. All right. So when Jesus says, "Truly I say to you, whenever you say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and it does not, does not doubt, you don't doubt in your heart,
Right.
but believe." What he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And whatever you stand and pray and forgive, if you have anything against your neighbor, you got to make sure, you're forgiven for the trespasses. But Jesus basically saying here, truly I say to you, whatever you say, and you pray for, if you truly believe in your heart, it will be given to you.
Right.
I mean, this is exactly where the prosperity preaching comes from.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So really, because I suppose if God needed me to move a mountain in order to do his purpose, it would happen. But matter of fact, when Pastor Joseph passed away, the family prayed. Even when he was already embalmed,
Right.
they were praying right before he got put into the, and they really truly believed in their heart. I'm without doubt in my mind. I mean, I felt saddened,
Right.
and honestly a little awkward,
Sure.
And they really thought he was going to come out, be risen from the dead,
Right.
Right. And it didn't happen.
Right.
And I there's not a doubt in my mind that maybe not everybody did, because there was a whole bunch of people, but
Right.
there was.
Well, it never becomes a problem then. Then you're going
Okay.
to look around the room and go, who's got doubt in their heart? Because it's
No,
got to be
I-
somebody's fault.
Oh.
Why, he wasn't
Well,
raised
yeah,
from
but
that,
that-
'cause somebody's
but
got
that
doubt.
doesn't
Or maybe
clarify-
somebody's got sin. But that's the preaching I've heard, right?
Yeah,
If
but
it
that
doesn't
doesn't-
happen, it's
that's
because
not
you
what this
really
says. It
doubt,
says
or it's
the-
got sin in your life. Or
Hey, look, man, you could have everybody in the room can doubt, and the one person with no doubt in their heart, and the event happens. All of a sudden, they're going to change
yeah,
the
it
doubt,
didn't
right?
seem to have be a problem for Jesus, did it?
Right. So
Most of the
yeah.
people around him doubted.
Exactly. So I don't say it has to have everybody, but I mean I know for a fact one person,
Right.
without a doubt in my mind. Matter of
Sure.
fact, I know it. They just talked about it, right?
Right.
But yet it didn't happen.
Right.
Right. So what does that mean then? What is Jesus saying then? What is Jesus saying? Look, if you pray and you have no doubt in your heart and you truly believe this is going to happen, then it will.
Right.
Why would Jesus say that then if it's not true?
Well, I think that this, again, this is where we get in trouble with proof texting, right? I think you have to take this saying of Jesus. Remember, this is a reflection looking back at a teaching of Jesus. It's set within a context to provide a point or be a teaching thing. And to take those verses out and let them stand alone
hold on one second,
for
hold on.
some kind of doctrine is
All right.
an error.
Okay, hold on, because unfortunately we ran out of time. But we can still finish on Facebook. So I want to encourage people on the radio that you're hearing this. I want this answer to be given. Go to our Facebook page at Alive in Christ, and you can finish hearing this off for us. But
Well,
I'm gonna-
great. The people on the radio aren't going to hear
Well,
my brilliant answer.
well, they will. They can go to Facebook. It's going to be out there. It'll be out there. They can have it. And they can go to our webpage at aliveinchrist7.com, right?
Right.
Actually, that'd be better because it's better quality picture, actually. So
Right.
go to aliveinchrist7.com. That's our webpage. You can follow it, see this on the finish of this right here. So we're not getting off of Facebook. Godspeed. Love you guys. See you next week.
So,
Don't you care about other people? Say goodbye to them.
goodbye,
All right.
people.
I'm going to leave it recorded in case Bill can manipulate this and get some of this in.
Okay.
So go ahead.
All right. Yeah, well, so I think, again, the question that the disciples asked, and Matthew really picks up, I think, in the intent of the question. How did this fig tree wither all at once? That's
Right.
that's the astonishing thing. How did it wither all at once? And that, again, I think is an echo of the question that is back when Jesus cleansed the temple. They're astonished at the authority that Jesus has.
Okay.
How in the world, Jesus, did you make this happen, right?
Right.
And it goes back to that question. What authority do you have to do this? And Jesus uses this as a teaching to point to them that it's not just him alone.
Right.
Yes, he's the incarnate Son of God. Yes, he has authority. What he sees the Father doing, he does. What he hears the Father saying, that's what he says. He's in complete obedience with the Father. But he turns us around to his disciples because he's getting ready
To leave. Yep.
And he points to them and he says, whatever you say, whatever you pray. Right? So now he's including them in this mission of doing the Father's will and the Father's purpose here on earth.
Right.
I think that's the bigger understanding or bigger story behind this. And again, I would impress upon you that you have to take these words in the context of all of Jesus's teaching and ministry here. You can't just pull these two verses out like a lot of people do
Right.
and build some kind of teaching or doctrine
Right.
on them. And that's a lot of where the prosperity gospel goes awry, is they like to pull these verses out. We talked about the one in John, 1 John 2, right?
And is it God's will for you guys to give me a whole bunch of money?
Right.
I mean, I don't see it, I don't want to get on the prosperity preaching side of it, but when we're reading this, just understanding that, could a mountain be moved because I have enough faith? Well, God parted the seas, right?
Right.
For Moses, and we see incredible miracles that happen out there, but it still has to be in alignment with God's purpose and why would God do it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Just because I pray and I say I want a Ferrari and I truly believe in my heart that this is going to happen, Scientologists, let's say, right?
Right.
Then and I can will it into happening, then that doesn't mean that's what God's will is,
Right.
So how does this represent God? Is this in alignment with His nature and character, and how does this benefit those that He's trying to reach? I guess, I mean, just like when someone gets healed, it's something that bugs me more than. Not more than anything, but it does bother me that when you have a miracle happen to you and then you don't share it,
Right.
it doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't
I
make
don't want to
sense.
tell anybody. Well, why not? Well, because God just healed you of whatever.
Right.
And you don't want to share this with anybody now? To me, that's selfish.
Right.
And it doesn't make any sense because I don't think God needs to heal us. We already got the prize. We got to go to heaven. So
Right.
He's not healing you because he's wanting to just, I want to make you better for the rest of your life, and that's it. But just between you and I. No, he's doing these things so other people can witness it, and see His power and glory and might, So anyways,
Well, so really quick, you're missing an important section of these
Okay.
words of Jesus.
all right.
Because he's talking about whatever you do, say to this mountain or whatever,
Right.
you have the same authority that I have. And then at the very end of this, he says, if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also forgive, if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also in heaven may forgive you your trespasses.
Right. You have to forgive them.
Now that there
Right.
to me is that's like that comes out of where did that, how is that connected to all this?
Well, because one, God says if you have sin in your heart, He doesn't hear your calls, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't hear your prayers.
But it seems so disconnected.
Well, to me it doesn't, because how can you have faith in God if you don't have enough faith to forgive somebody else? I mean, to me, it's your heart's not pure. You're not right in alignment with God. I mean,
Right.
I know we're going to have struggles, and we're not always going to be perfect, and God knows that. But basically, what I would say is, when God sees it, I mean, kind of looking at this as the entirety of your life, because God knows the beginning to the end, and there are
Right.
people that come to Christ, and 99% of the stuff they've given up, but they hold on to the one.
Right.
And they will not let it go because that person hurt me.
They're a 1%er.
Yeah, they're a 1%. That person hurt me. That person hurt me. That person hurt me. Every time I pray, God doesn't answer my calls.
Right.
Right? Well, you're not all in.
Yeah.
You've got to be all in. If you want to see the miracles, you got to be all in. And God already knows that when you received Christ and you were saved, that you're not going to give this up. You're going to go to your grave with this,
Right.
And
I think that brings up, and this is probably for a different show, but the kind of the central idea is whatever you ask for in prayer. So the question is what did Jesus mean by prayer? Because a lot of people, they focus on whatever you say.
Right, yeah.
But this
Yeah, exactly.
idea
I was gonna
of
bring
this
that up, too.
commune with God, this communication with God in prayer means that we have the same relationship that Jesus had with our Father, that whatever we see him doing, we do. Whatever we hear him doing, we or hear him say, we say. And having that kind of communion with God, you can't have if you have unforgiveness in your heart.
Yep. So anyways, this is probably could have went longer on this show.
Could have went longer.
We could have. And we hope we answered some of your questions out there. So, hey, and at this point, you're probably not hearing this on the radio. So tell your radio friends to tune to Facebook. Hey, God
right.
bless, Godspeed. Actually, go to aliveinchrist7.com, and there's better clarity there. So God bless you.
Lord bless you.